Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tuesday Tips. I'm your host, Marin Smith, content manager here at Grow Schools. We're here every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, talking through biggest challenges facing school leaders. And today we're kicking off 2026. I have my colleague, Ashley, joining me. Hi, Ashley.
Hey, Marin.
We're diving into planning for 2026, specifically your marketing and content strategy. So, Ashley, a lot of schools are going to be setting goals for next year, wondering what their marketing should look like. And as we'll discuss, knowing how to assess this past year's efforts and plan thoughtfully for what's ahead and make the most of oftentimes limited resources can really make the difference. And starting at a time like right now in January, February with a clear game plan versus figuring it out over the summer can really help. So let's jump in. My first question for you is, what should schools be thinking about right now as they plan their marketing strategy for 2026?
I'd say it's really important. This is a great time to get your messaging locked in. If you aren't able to articulate really clearly in just a sentence or two why families should choose your school, like your marketing team, your recruiters, they're going to struggle with that too. So take some time now to decide what those stories are, what the language, what language you want to use, what your school's voice is that makes your school distinct and memorable. And then everything else, your social media ads, flyers, events, those can all flow from that framework that you can establish now early in the year.
Yeah. And then as schools are looking back and trying to figure out, okay, what worked and what didn't in the 2025-26 marketing efforts, how can they do that?
Yeah, that's really important, looking at your enrollment data, where families came from, because that's going to help you build that strategy too, so you can focus on what's working and what's not. The simplest way to do that, I think, is just to ask families directly. Make sure that you have a question on your enrollment form, your application, about, how did you first hear about our school? If once you add that, you should get some good data, but you can also just send a quick survey to families and ask, give them a couple options: referral, Facebook, saw your building, Google search. And then I would also look at your inquiry volume by month. Even if you don't have a fancy CRM or you're using a spreadsheet or something like that, you should still be able to see when families were reaching out throughout the year, and then look at what you were doing at those times. So did you see a lot of inquiries after you had an event or an open house? Were you running a Facebook campaign? Did you have some local news article that came out? Something like that. Look for those patterns to try to take some of the guesswork out.
Yeah, trying to find those correlations and pinpoint, okay, where are people either enrolling, taking that final step to enroll, or sort of falling out of the funnel.
Yeah. And if, do yourself a favor in 2027 and get some tracking in place, like Google Analytics on your website, getting those questions on your forms now, and you'll thank yourself later.
Yeah, good advice. Want to pause for just a moment and welcome anyone who's just joining us. We're here talking marketing and content strategy with Ashley for the year ahead. And you can find all our expert conversations on challenges facing school leaders right here, Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, and on our website. So let's get back to our conversation with Ashley. A couple more questions for you. Next is, how should schools approach content planning for the year? Should they plan everything in advance as much as possible, or should they stay nimble? What works best?
Yeah, I'd say it's really important to lock in your key dates. So figure out what your enrollment deadlines, your lottery date, if you have a lottery, what your key, if you have some big cornerstone events that you always have, the first day of school, lock those in. Then think about, when families might be more likely to be researching a school, when your families are making early decisions versus last minute decisions, or even thinking about switching school after school has started. So think about those key times and build some content themes around those. But I would leave some of your calendar open for that more timely content, because you don't want it to seem all prescribed and scheduled ahead of time. So student wins, new staff introductions, things happening at your school or in the community, you want to build some time in for those things.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk trends too, because especially when it comes to social media, it can be hard to keep up sometimes. Anything in social media in particular, or just school marketing in general, that you're seeing sort of trending or becoming something schools should track?
Yeah, I think we're seeing that video really isn't optional anymore. Short form video like Reels, if you're not posting those, you're missing a big part of your potential audience, especially younger parents. It doesn't have to be polished, but it is important that that you're posting, videos and giving families a look at your school, telling your school story in that format.
Yeah, so important that it should feel authentic and maybe even not overproduced, because that can actually backfire in some ways where someone might think, oh, this school is a bit fancy.
Yeah, fancy. That goes to like kind of the other thing that I'm seeing, which is that families really care about outcomes. Authenticity is important, and they want to know what real students are going on to do. They want to hear real teacher voices. They want to see the teachers. They want to hear parent testimonials. It's way more important to show those things and tell those authentic stories than worrying about really high production value.
Yeah. Great advice. Last question for you. And this is sort of on behalf of many schools who are operating with limited marketing resources. Maybe they have sort of a catbird person who's kind of an admin person who's also running their social media. What should be their top priorities if they had to choose, okay, here's the bare minimum we can achieve in 2026?
Yeah, I think I'd take a few minutes and Google charter school near me and see if you show up. And if you don't, who does? Take some time, if you haven't, to add some SEO keywords to your website. Most platforms make it really easy these days. And you don't have to touch code or anything like that. Claim your Google business profile, make sure that that's accurate, call the phone number that's listed, make sure it's all dialed in. If you see other competitors, relevant competitors that are running ads, and you see those sponsored listings on Google, you might want to think about doing some Google paid ads yourself. But definitely putting those key local SEO terms in place. That's free, and it really is high impact. And then the other thing that I'd say is, go back to that data, where your families are hearing about you. Pick a couple of channels and focus on those. Focus on, just a couple places and do that really well, rather than trying to be everywhere at once. So if your families are on Facebook, great, be on Facebook. If they're at, community events or library story time, wherever they are, the community center, make sure that you are too. When resources are really tight, I think it's more important to focus on depth and doing fewer things well versus trying to be everywhere at once.
Yeah, go where the families are. I feel like I hear you say that a lot.
Yeah.
Figure out where they are, go there, do that. So if we were to keep it simple, maybe that's our motto.
I think that's the motto for 2026.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Ashley, this was so fun talking with you. Really helpful advice as schools think about the year ahead. Once again, we're here Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. If you're watching, you can also head over to growschools.com to explore more resources on marketing strategy and enrollment planning. And thanks to Ashley and everyone who joined us today. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Marin.